Najwyższa pora, żeby wstać z kolan. Głosimy prawdę, nie jest łatwo nam. Nie mogą zamknąć nas, ale będą próbować. Nie zamierzamy się chować, niech żyje wolność słowa. Najwyższa pora, żeby wstać z kolan. Głosimy prawdę, nie jest łatwo nam. Nie mogą zamknąć nas, ale będą próbować. Nie zamierzamy się chować, niech żyje wolność słowa. Bo tylko jej nie mogą nam odebrać. Dopóki chcesz coś zmienić i czujesz, że to sens ma, to napierdalaj naprzód, ile masz sił. Na pewno masz ze sobą swoich ludzi, zabieraj ich. Tak wielu przed nami czekało latami, żeby w końcu świat oprzytomniał, zanim każdy skończy w końcu jak pies. Stary, sam widzisz jak jest, samo nie naprawi się. Ten świat tu potrzebuje ciebie, właśnie po to masz łeb. Bronimy prawdy naszych ojców i dziadów. Jest z nami każdy, kto nie znosi tych bezprawnych zakazów. Nie wierzymy dawno, że to dla naszego dobra, nie. Finansowo upadamy na dno, trup nie ściele się. Więcej ludzi zmarło z innych powodów niż COVID. Coraz bardziej się boisz, mówisz coś o paranoi. Boimy się coraz mniej, jest nas coraz więcej. W jedności siła, a ta chwila właśnie nastąpiła. Najwyższa pora, żeby wstać z kolan. Głosimy prawdę, nie jest łatwo nam. Nie mogą zamknąć nas, ale będą próbować. Nie zamierzamy się chować, niech żyje wolność słowa. Najwyższa pora, żeby wstać z kolan. Głosimy prawdę, nie jest łatwo nam. Nie mogą zamknąć nas, ale będą próbować. Nie zamierzamy się chować, niech żyje wolność słowa. Bo tylko jej nie mogą nam odebrać.
When faced with crimes, one cannot remain passive. Whoever remains silent in the face of murder becomes an accomplice to the murderer. Whoever does not condemn it, condones it. That was Sofia Kosak's appeal in protest issued by the Front for the Revival of Poland, the underground extension of the Catholic Action. That appeal became the symbolic beginning of the secret initiative to aid Jews, Zegota. If any group from World War II, the Holocaust, should be known, it should be Zegota. Zegota was unlike any other group in German-occupied Europe in what it did, what actions they took in regards to saving Jews. There was no other group like it. It was created through the efforts of two Catholic Polish women, Sofia Kosak and Wanda Królewska-Filipowicz, both dedicated to the mission of helping shelter Jews from German persecution and saving their lives, which ultimately they did in the tens of thousands. Both of these women had long been activists and were well connected with important members of the Polish underground, who were themselves already involved in the same mission of saving Jews and fighting the Germans. Together with others, they formed a formidable network. Much of the funding they received came from the Polish government in exile in London, as well as from other independent sources from within Poland and abroad. Before Zegota, whoever decided to escape from the ghetto and from a transport had to go into hiding and find help independently from kindly Poles. They needed false documents and had to remain in a hiding place. Many individuals supported the Jews, but that help was not always in an organized nature. Also, only in occupied Poland did individuals face the severity of the death penalty for oneself and their whole family for aiding Jews, and tens of thousands of Poles were executed as such. The total number of Polish fatalities will never be known because many Poles were executed with the Jews they were trying to save. It is estimated that up to 1 million Poles aided Jews at some level during the war. The Polish also knew persecution well, as they were considered subhuman by the Nazi Germans and were being executed and imprisoned on a mass scale at the start of the war. The Polish were the first to be under scrutiny when the war began, and widely unknown to the public were facing a higher death rate than the Jewish population until the final solution began in 1942 at a ratio of 9 to 10 higher. The officers of Zegota were comprised of the representatives from various political parties, Adolf Berman, secretary from the Zionist Party, Leon Feiner, vice president from the Bund, the Jewish Socialist Party, Julian Grobelny, president from the Polish Socialist Party, Tadeusz Rek, deputy from the Peasant Party, Ferdynand Arżęcki, treasurer from the Democratic Party, Władysław Bartoszewski, and Witold Biakowski, liaison directors from the Catholic Front for the Reborn Poland. The leadership and the members of Zegota established vital links with the Jewish underground and brought them into contact with the Jewish community. They had offices all throughout Poland and many areas throughout the Polish countryside, but its base was in Warsaw. In the midst of Nazi German terror, Zegota was quietly organizing its priorities, setting up its plan of action and secretly recruiting candidates who were best equipped to implement the goals of the organization. The council dealt with the specific needs of the Jews, organized into departments: legislation, housing, clothing, medical care, finances, as well as the anti-rat strategies directed at unscrupulous Poles who preyed upon Jews using blackmail and extortion. These rats also faced the death penalties from the Polish underground army if they were caught collaborating. Many of its members were part of the Home Army, the AK. Zegota's most important links were with Alexander Kamiński and Heinrich Wolniński, both from the AK. Kamiński was the editor of the Information Bulletin, the largest and most widely read underground newspaper. Wolniński was the head of the Jewish section of the Underground Bureau of Information and Propaganda, and the main contact between the AK and the ZOB, the Jewish Fighting Organization. Witold Biakowski was a very important key player and was a representative of the home delegation of the Polish government in exile. Grobelny's contact with the labor unions made it possible to obtain the assistance of railway workers to smuggle Jews out of Warsaw. Wanda Królewski-Filipiewicz had been a part of the underground from its inception and early on began to hide Jews in her own home. One of those she had been hiding was the widow of the renowned Jewish historian Shimon Ashkenazi. Sophia Kozak, by contrast, was a conservative nationalist and a self-professed anti-Semite. Kozak had been the target of intensive Gestapo manhunt for activities in helping save Jews. Her children also involved in the same humanitarian mission. She strongly believed that German crimes were an offense against God and man, and expected other Poles to follow her example in helping the Jews. In the summer of 1942, Kozak appealed to the Jewish community in a scathing pamphlet entitled Protest, in which she urged Poles to help the Jews, even if only to defy the German occupation. She believed strongly in Christian morality and loving thy neighbor, even if one did not agree with them. One of Zegota's first recruits was Irina Sendler, an invaluable administrator in the Warsaw Welfare Department. Throughout her time working with Zegota, she succeeded in smuggling out 2,500 Jewish children out of the Warsaw Ghetto and was able to hide them with Polish and Austrian families. In 1991, she became an honorary citizen of the State of Israel and was recognized as righteous among nations. Sendler was strong in her Christian faith and condemned Catholics who claimed to love God but hated their Jewish neighbors. She demanded sacrifices from others no less than what she risked doing herself. Financial resources needed to save even one Jewish life were expensive and ranged from 6,000 to 15,000 zlotys. Zegota's monthly expenses ranged from 500,000 to 2 million zlotys. This was not even close to meet the demands of the organization. Zegota's main activities dealt with forging documents for Jewish refugees. On average, approximately every day, Zegota produced over 100 forgeries. After 2 years, Zegota had secretly issued 50,000 fake documents. Because of the courageous and altruistic actions of Zegota, 40 to 50,000 Jews were saved. Even with all the risks and dangers, the leadership and members worked tirelessly in their mission. Amidst all of these threats, no one ever betrayed the organization, not even under torture and the threat of death. As for Zegota and its breadth of membership, it was widespread, it was enormous, and it included vast networks representing students, members of the Scout organization, Writers Union, Underground Journalists Association, the Democratic Doctors Committee, as well as the railway, tramway, and sanitation departments, workers' organizations, and more. Zegota's headquarters situated itself at 24 Jaravia Street and held office hours twice a week, during which couriers would pick up or request documents, clothing or arrange food, shelter, and medicine for the Jews in hiding. Regardless of the amount of people who knew the location of Zegota's head office, it was never raided by the Germans. Even with all the individuals who knew about the actions of Zegota, no one ever informed. Whenever they were under surveillance, they continued their administration in the homes of various other members. Many Poles who risked their lives and the lives of their families in order to help the Jews died in horrific deaths. One Polish man was caught tossing a sack of bread over the wall of the Warsaw Ghetto and was instantly shot by the Germans. Throughout the war, at least 20,000 members of Zegota were captured and executed by the Germans. Thousands more were imprisoned, tortured, and sent to concentration camps. It is impossible to determine how many Poles helped the Jews. When the Germans discovered Jews hiding in Polish homes, they were shot along with the Poles who were sheltering them. Often entire families, friends, and neighbors were murdered. No witnesses remain to tell that story. That many Poles did not attempt to help Jews had more to do with the terror of the Germans than indifference towards the Jews. We must all ask ourselves, if we would have risked our lives and the lives of our own children to save people in similar circumstances. Many of the Poles who helped Jews did not even know them. Some Jews today only acknowledge Zegota's mission begrudgingly and go so far as to complain that Zegota didn't save enough Jewish lives. To me, this is shameful because no one has this right to say that people who are also targets of annihilation did not do enough. This is truly a low blow, and these people are lacking self-awareness. Rescue missions had to proceed with the greatest caution. Logistics and planning and every aspect of each case encountered and underwent an inordinate amount of time and preparation. It is difficult enough for Poles to carry out their mission secretly, but to do so under the constant scrutiny of Germans was nothing short of amazing.